Hi guys. I'm gonna wait for a moment until we get a few people on. Hi guys. We're just pausing for a moment until a few people come on. I have Illy here too to ease my nerves. Hey Jackie. I'm so happy you guys are here. I'm so freaked out right now. All right, let's do this. People will catch up as they come on. So, I'm Kelsey, and I'm sure from my post in the group you could tell that I was nervous, and the overwhelming support made me feel amazing, made me feel like I could actually do this. So, I'm pretty excited, and I'll talk a little bit more about my camera shyness a little bit more later on. But when Adi first reached out to me, she sent me an email and she said, "Hey Kelsey, would you want to go on and do a live broadcast? You're the only one who hasn't done it yet." And I was pretty much like, I think I avoided it for like 20 hours. And then finally I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. I don't really want to because I'm nervous and I'm scared, but I'll do it. And she said, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" And I was like, well, I might as well just talk about fear because this is something that I'm extremely afraid to do. So we're talking about fear today, but I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about who I am and how I came to WAG, and just so you know me a little bit better. So that's what we're going to talk about today. A lot of you won't know this, but every year the WAG staff gets together, and last year we had to go on camera, and I can't even remember what we talked about, but pretty much I laughed the whole time. I couldn't even contain myself. So this is super scary for me, and I'm surprised that I'm not dying laughing. I think it's like a coping mechanism for me or something, but I laugh when I'm like nervous or freaked out. So I'm doing okay so far. So a little bit of background on me. I've been with WAG for a few years. I started out as a client. I worked with a coach for WAG, and then I've been coaching for a few years since 2015. I went to school for exercise science and psychology, so that's kind of where I started, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I was introduced to CrossFit in 2009. So with my exercise science program, I needed to have an internship. And one of my friends at the time was really into weightlifting. And he's like, "Hey, I think that you'll really like this thing. It's called CrossFit." And I was like, okay, like I'll try it, whatever. So I went to a class. I almost threw up. I don't think I did throw up, but I almost did. And I was hooked ever since. So I've been doing CrossFit on and off since 2009. I did my internship with CrossFit Sioux Falls. I don't know if anyone is from there or trains there, but that would be really cool. So that's a little bit about me. I have been coaching for like 11 years. I started out coaching group fitness, and then like circuit training. And then obviously I moved into CrossFit. And then I've been full-time with WAG for about a year. I was doing WAG and coaching CrossFit at the same time, so I'm full-time WAG now. A little bit about my journey with tracking macros. So a couple of years ago, or when I started with WAG, I was looking to get stronger, lean out, and I was tracking on my own, and I noticed that I wasn't like as accountable to myself, or I was like, didn't really know what I was doing. And so I kept seeing, I actually found WAG through Instagram. And so I signed up, and the first year that I was with WAG, I think I lost 20 pounds. I started at like 174 pounds or something like that. And so the first year I lost 20 pounds, and all of my lifts significantly increased and improved, so I was gaining strength at the same time. Year 2, I decided to go out on my own a little bit, so I was coaching at this time. I went out on my own, and I played around with mindful eating. I played around with not tracking at all, played around with strict tracking, so I've pretty much experienced it all in terms of tracking macros. Year 2, I think I lost another 10 pounds, and then I was kind of just doing CrossFit in year 2 of my tracking, serious tracking. And then currently, so right now, I am actually working with Coach Ashley, and she put a whole bunch of hearts. Hi, Ashley. I actually requested to work with her because I wanted to get strict again, and I wanted to do a weight cut again. So I'm currently in a weight cut. So my journey has been like very up and down, and I've gone through periods where I haven't tracked, gone through periods where I've tracked strictly. I've gone through loose tracking, you name it. So that's a little bit about me and my journey with tracking. I'm sure that some of you can relate, and I know that I talk about this regularly with a few of you. So I really like working with a coach just because of the accountability factor. Even since starting with Ashley, I've been way more accountable. So that's kicked off. So today we're going to talk about fear, and I noticed that quite a few more people are coming on. Hi, everybody. So I just got done just saying a little bit about who I am, where I came from. Illy made an appearance. Illy is my dog. Most of you know her as Bean. She's my little spirit animal. So fear. So I just want to dig into this a little bit more. So fear is kind of an essential thing, really. It's what basically made us survive all of these years as human, or become like a human race. So it's like a primal and instinctual thing that we have. So for example, back in the day, it saved us from saber-toothed tigers, or like not dying, basically. Before I worked with WAG, I worked at a martial arts school, and someone gave me this book called The Gift of Fear. And it's actually a book about these like primal and instinctual things that basically protect us, so they keep us alive. And so being a female living in a big city, so I live in Denver, and I mean, you need to have awareness, and so basically it's about having an awareness, and that instinctual fear that we have can actually save our lives. But then there's the other side of fear, which goes along with this fear of mine, talking to you all with a camera in my face. And then I'll give a few more examples later, but it's something that could limit us or hold us back from reaching our full potential. Hyena. So it could hold us back, and that's something that can limit us, and we basically need to find the comfortable in the uncomfortable. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. So let's relate this to nutrition a little bit. When we first start, maybe other diets haven't worked. Maybe we have a fear of reaching an ultimate goal. We have this ultimate goal in mind. Once we get there, it's like, I like to call it the then what complex. Like, then what happens, you know? So we're afraid of what we could maybe potentially do. So these are all fears that are holding us back from reaching our full potentials. So a real life example for me is obviously being on camera. Another one is, so my biggest fear is the fear of falling. And I've only actually recently started to talk about that, but I've been working on kind of overcoming it for years. I've dabbled in rock climbing for several years, but in the past few months I have started to rock climb pretty avidly. And I don't know if any of you have rock climbed before, but even if you're tied up to ropes, you still feel like you're gonna fall to your death. That's kind of where I was at. And I'm sure if you've known me or you've seen me on Instagram, I'm an avid hiker as well, and I love to mountaineer. And I have actually started mountaineering because, one, I loved to get to the top of things, to be up high, to see the whole world, but I still had this fear of heights, and I didn't really feel like mountaineering or climbing mountains was something that was helping me progress in that fear of heights or fear of falling. And so insert the rock climbing. And so I've been rock climbing pretty avidly the past couple of months. I'll go like 2 or 3 times a week. And I've started to notice in the past 2 weeks that I'm more and more comfortable. So I'll get like 3/4 of the way up or 2/3 of the way up the wall, and I'll be so focused on just figuring out the puzzle. So the fear is actually dissipating significantly. So it's basically, I've been getting, I think the more that we push ourselves to be uncomfortable, the more we get comfortable with that uncomfortable. So that's definitely started to happen. So that fear of heights, fear of falling has started to slowly go away. So I want to add to this that it doesn't mean that if we're working on a fear, working on something that's difficult, that we're not going to have setbacks sometimes. So with this fear of falling, I want to relate it to an incident that happened a couple of weeks ago. I was in Crested Butte and I was climbing mountains. Crested Butte is a town in Colorado. If you've never been there, I highly recommend you go. It's gorgeous, but there's a lot of places to climb there. So I had a rock wall that we were scrambling up, and to get to the summit, you had to climb this wall. And I had my dog with me, of course, and I think that heightened the fear in me, and I froze. So that fear of falling returned, and basically I cried, I froze, I didn't want to move, I literally am on the side of this wall like crying, and I just had to stop. I breathed, and I made it to the top. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to have setbacks along the way, but it's just how we react to those setbacks and how we keep moving forward that we keep progressing. So I want to talk about this a little bit more and kind of tie it back into what we're doing here and what you guys are all working towards and your goals, rather than just me talking about the fear of falling. So I'm sure all of you have fears. So we have, I want to tie this into, most of you have seen this, or have seen this probably in the group, the book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. It's by Carol Dweck. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she talks about a fixed versus a growth mindset. And I really want to relate this to those fears. So a fixed mindset. So let me give you an example of this, and then I also want to kind of relate that to positive versus negative thoughts. So when we're in these uncomfortable situations, how we think and how we react and where our head is at. So a fixed and growth mindsets. My example, because I hear this a lot with the Facebook group. So sharing progress. I love it when people share progress because, I mean, you're like be proud of your hard work. Like, that's amazing. But the response to this. So if you see someone post in the group who's already reached their goals, we can talk about this in a fixed versus a growth mindset. So this is just an example. So a fixed mindset is thinking of this as like a threat, or like, I'm never going to get there, or I'm not good enough, like this is way too hard, or I've never gotten there before. So that's the fixed mindset. A growth mindset, using it as inspiration, like, wow, if they did it, like I can totally do it, or something like that, or just being inspired by that person, basically. And I mean, it's really hard because we didn't see the behind the scenes of that. And we don't know if they went through the same things that we're going through, or what. So that fixed versus growth mindset. So I like to think of this as like a positive versus a negative mindset as well. So positive, thinking positively about So I'm going to use the example of the scale. So the scale, we can have a negative thought, because that's a pretty common thing. I mean, I don't enjoy weighing in every day, but it's a very useful tool. So we could think, oh, so let's say I was a pound up today. Sorry for you, people that talk in kilograms. Let's say I was a pound up today. My thought can immediately go to, oh, this sucks. Like, I'm never going to make progress. Like, I was down a pound yesterday, now I'm up a pound, and I'm just like back and forth. Whereas if we replace that negative thought with a positive thought, the scale fluctuates. Maybe I ate more sodium yesterday than I normally do. Maybe I didn't work out. Maybe I'm super sore. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Maybe I'm super stressed. Whatever it might be. So positive versus negative thoughts. So I kind of relate that back. And then it all comes down to our self-talk and how we react to those difficult situations. So back to the rock climbing example, how I reacted. So I had my setback a few weeks back I was getting over this fear of falling, and then my self-talk and my reaction to that actually helped me grow, and I actually made it to the top of the mountain. So just really checking our thoughts when we're feeling that way or we're feeling fearful. So I want to talk a little more about tools, just to make this a little more practical. And I want to open this up, so if you guys all have tools that work amazing for you, like, I think it would be really cool if you guys would comment and just say, like, you can even say, like, I'm afraid of this and this is what I did, or whatever. But I'm just going to break it down into what I do, and this doesn't make it right, and I think the more ideas, the better. So how do we incorporate this, and what are some takeaways? First, we need to distinguish that it's like a fear that we're having. So typically with nutrition, this is like the fear of failure, or the fear of like the same thing happening over and over and over, or like we may never get to where we want. I think that everyone here wants to know that our hard work is going to get some sort of return. I think that's just like a natural thing. So the first step, establishing it's a fear, or if we're having those bad thoughts, establishing where that's coming from. So then after that, we need to establish, like, is this saving us from harm, or is this something that's limiting us from taking us to that next level? So both of those things. And so how do we do this? One thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier was pausing for a moment, maybe letting those feelings of fear overcome you. So for example, me just like crying and getting it all out. I'm a total crier. If you know me, I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm freaked out. So just pausing for a moment and letting that feelings come out. Another thing, meditation. I love to do yoga too. I don't know if I have any other yogis out there, but something that's really common in yoga and meditation is being comfortable with uncomfortable. So let's say we're in a pose and it's really hard, and you're going to do everything you can. We can even relate this to CrossFit. If we're like, we hate running and we don't want to run, so we like tie our shoe, or we like redo our hair because we're like delaying that thing that's like really uncomfortable. So just being comfortable and realizing that we might be like delaying or whatever. So just being very present of how we're reacting and where our head's at. Another thing that we can do, especially with, nice, Ashley. Ashley was a yoga teacher for 9 years. We can redefine our goals. So that's another thing we can do. So with nutrition, if we're feeling stuck, we feel like we're not moving, we're losing purpose, we don't know why we're tracking macros, or whatever it may be, or why we're working out every day for 2 hours a day, we can redefine those goals. Come back to your why, like, why am I doing this? What are my non-negotiables? Doing all of that. So redefining your goals. Or if you want to set new goals. Sometimes a new goal can fuel that fire again. And then redefining all the things that we can control. So are we doing everything that we can possible? Are we taking a moment to just breathe? That sort of thing. And then being submerged in all of the things that we might be afraid of little by little. So pushing ourselves. So I can give this as an example. So I didn't want to come on the camera, and but I knew that if I did, I would grow as a person. So that's why I'm here. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And so yeah, so submerging yourself. I think each time I get on camera, it gets a little bit easier, a little bit easier. You guys probably saw the WAG Unplugged video, and I need to give a huge shout out to Michael for that, Dee's husband. He helped me through that. And I mean, this is going fine too. I feel fine. You guys are all amazing and super supportive. So I just want to open this up, and I want you guys to maybe say what your fears are. Listen out in the comments if you have more ideas of how you've overcome fears. Put them down, share them. And then I'm going to open up for questioning. So if you have questions, let me know. I'm going to scroll back up here. I've never done a live, obviously, so I'm going to figure this out. But there were 2 questions already in the comments when I posted yesterday, so I'm going to answer those while you guys think of your questions, and go ahead and list them out if you have them. If not, that's cool too. So the first question for my Denverites, sorry, bear with me if none of you are from Denver. Somebody said, what are your favorite places to eat in Denver? If you know me, I'm such a foodie. Ashley had to give me a talking to last week about not eating out, so I'm only eating out once a week, but I love eating out. So my favorite places in Denver, I had to break it down into a list, obviously. Breakfast, my favorite place is Sunny's. It's in Sunnyside. They have like a Reese's peanut butter cup pancake there. That's pretty easy to break down. And they also have sugar-free syrup, which comes in the original bottle, which is awesome. Favorite lunch spot is called Britter. It's on Platt Street if you're in Denver. If you like tacos, my favorite place is Kachina. They have like Navajo style tacos. Sorry if I'm making you guys hungry, but it also has the info on MyFitnessPal. So Denver people, those are my spots. The other question was succeeding on WAG alumni. So this actually came from one of my alumni people, and I commented on there, so I can say this. She's doing amazing, and she just had her monthly check-in. But I think that the biggest thing with being successful and having done like the whole mindful eating and loose tracking thing myself, I think is being honest with yourself. So if you see that your composition maybe isn't where it was or where you don't want it to be, then having that real talk with yourself or messaging your coach and talking it out. But are you doing all the things that you can do? All the things that you learned in those first 6 months with your coach, are you doing all of those things, your foundational stuff? So coming back to that and being honest with yourself is huge. And of course, if you need help or you feel like you're struggling, always reach out. That's the whole point of the alumni, is that you still have that person to help you out and to keep you accountable. So, does anybody have any questions? I'm going to go through the comments here. No questions. You guys are so sweet. I said this a little bit earlier, but thank you to everyone who liked or commented on that post yesterday. That made me feel so happy. It made this a lot easier. No questions. All right, well, I'll wait for another minute or so if you guys have questions. Otherwise, I don't think I can get Illy to come back over here. She's kind of a diva. So if you want to see Illy, you'll have to go to the beginning of this video. She's my little sidekick. Okay, so Ashley asks, how did you adjust to transitioning back and forth with tracking? Woo! So Ashley knows my struggle with this. I think the first week that I was back to strict tracking, I went to Thailand and I started tracking, and I was like loosely tracking, and I made sure that I hit my protein and all of that. But when I came back, I started back really strict, and I had this feeling of I think it was mental hunger. I felt like I was being restricted almost. And so I just had to, keep like pushing through that and just know that this is what I needed to do to be on track, is to strict track. If I wanted to seriously reach these goals, I needed to be serious about it. Mentally, wait. Sorry, I'm confused because Ashley said mentally for alumni members. Can you clarify what you mean, Ashley? So we're in the questioning process right now. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. Okay, here we go. How would you recommend transitioning back and forth on their own? So this is really tough. I think it's going to be different for each person, but such hard questions. I'm on the spot. So for me, I think it ultimately came down to having clear goals, or like defining clear goals, and having that like discipline of what do I actually want, you know? If you are okay with loose tracking and maybe not being as lean as you were, or having the performance that you had, loose tracking is fine. I mean, if you have a pretty good gauge on what you need, if you've tracked long enough, you kind of know what you need. But if you want to lean out and transition back, I think having a clear goal of exactly what that looks like and what that means to you, and then doing all of those foundational things. So tracking every bite, limiting your eating out, those kinds of things. Let me know if you need, if I didn't quite get that question, Ashley. Tanya, thoughts on carb cycling? So, carb cycling, do you mean before and after workout, or in terms of like doing like a low carb day earlier in the week and high carb day later in the week? I'm going to answer during the day. So for me personally, I don't really notice a difference with carb cycling during the day, like bulking my carbs around my workouts. I know for a lot of people, especially if you're training really hard, having low versus high days, so having carbs around your workout can help if you're training really hard. Tanya replied and she said low versus high days. I've actually gotten this question, and I personally think that having days like that, like rest day and training day carbs are cool. But I think that having like super low carbs one day and then super high carbs another day adds complication to things. I think that you can still get results even if you're not doing like a high carb and a low carb day. I can say that because I don't do that with clients. And I personally have never done that, and I've seen success. So I don't really have a ton of experience with that. I really think that it's unnecessary. Let's see. George, how to deal with a coach that I'm scared of? She's so strict. So George is joking. Hina, do you enter your macros at night when you plan your day out, or as you go along during your day? So I am a serious planner. I get stressed out if I don't know how I'm going to end my day. I don't like throwing random things together either. So typically what I'll do, like let's say I want to have a meal out, and obviously I want to enjoy that. And so I will look at the menu, and then I will plan everything that I'm going to have for that meal out, and then I'll build my day around that. So I love to plan the night before. Sometimes if I don't have time or I have something going on the night before, then I'll do it before the day starts in the morning, or that's like one of the first things I do. After I wake up, get my coffee, then I'll start planning my food. I'm also an intermittent faster. I know a lot of people ask me about that just because I'm a night eater. I fast in the morning. So I kind of had that time to think about what I want to eat for the day too. So I do it in the morning too. So yeah, so I like to plan ahead of time. I know a lot of people, it's kind of what works for you. A lot of people love to like go with the flow, and I like mad props to you people because I cannot do that. The real question is, how do you guys not get stressed when you like go with the flow like that? Any other questions? How do you deal with a partner that doesn't track macros in terms of maintaining this program long term? So this is from Justin. So me personally, I always convert my partner. My boyfriend now actually tracks his macros. And I think that I kind of infected him with that, but I mean, whatever. But let's get serious. A partner that does not track their macros. I think that being super open about your goals and what you're trying to work for. So for me, I can kind of relate this. The eating out thing. So obviously, a guy is going to have more everything than me. And so I said, I really need help with this. Like, I really want to eat out, but I can't. Like, can we eat in? So just kind of like planning things like that, I think really helps. Staying in, being open about what you're struggling with helps. Maintaining long term. I know that, I've done this. There's options to do like the whole mindful eating thing too at times in your journey. That's definitely not for everybody, so it kind of depends on if you want a strict track forever or have a little bit looser approach. All right, any other questions? You guys have been so awesome. So I've been sitting here, I have my stress relief candle just like wafting in my face. I think it's helped. You guys have been amazing. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. If you have other questions, thank you, Marty. I think if you have other questions, list them in the comments. Otherwise, let us know what your fears are or how you deal with your fears. I think if we can get kind of a group effort going, the more ideas, the better. Why not? Thanks, you guys. Bye.